Well, I have to apologize. We were experiencing some technical problems, so I hope connection will be way better from now on. Well, I have to apologize. We were experiencing some. So, okay. So let's go for. Let's go and analyze. Actually, continue analyzing Kramnik's game. I stopped saying that we were expecting him to do that game. He actually went for the knight c3, Dingley ran took on e5 and played knight e4. He's just temporarily sacking a pawn because the e5 pawn will go down as well. After c takes d5, knight c3, b takes, c takes d5, Kramnik played f4. He's now threatening to take on d5, and certainly black has to decide whether to defend this pawn by e6, to maybe play bishop e6, or yeah, he did it and he played bishop e6. Okay, just because we were experiencing those the most interesting, because Serbia, they're just reigning champions and defending champions from the last year, and also they're facing Alkaloid, who won all their matches so far. So this is the only team, like I said, in a men's section with a perfect score. Kramnik is facing Dingley Ran. Giri is playing against Andreikin, Grishchuk, Elyanov, Tomaszewski, Yakovenko, Korobov, Yu Yang Yui, and Rublevsky against Krivoruchko. These are the 6 matches that we'll mostly pay attention at. Then Medvedev Sadnik, the leading team before this round. They actually lost yesterday. Strong team from St. Petersburg, Russians. They're facing Beersheva from Israel. Then Padova is playing Odlar Yurdu from Azerbaijan. Zhiguli played against Legacy Square from Moscow. Novi were playing against Valjevo from Serbia. These are the games, and these are actually matches we'll mostly pay attention at. And we will be analyzing the games, especially these first top games in a match between Siberia and Alkaloid. By the way, apart from that, I just have to say that in women's section, we also have like Circle, Deshek, Monte Carlo there. Absolutely, it's the only thing with a perfect score in the women's section, but they won all their matches. And defending champions Nona Batumi, they have 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss out of 5 matches. So Circle, Deshek, Monte Carlo, if they win today, they are already champions of Euroclub Club for this year. Circle, Deshek, Monaco, okay, they're just playing. So Bodnarok is playing Ho Yifan. Sorry, Circle, Deshek, Monte Carlo. Bodnarok is facing Ho Yifan. Ovod Yevgenia playing against Muzichuk. Anna Belenkaya played against Muzichuk Maria, and Belian Alina is playing against Almira Skripchenko. As far as I see, Circle, Deshek, Monte Carlo, they're favorites on every single board in that match, and we're maybe going to have already a Champions of Europe in women's section today. So we're gonna come back to games. Let's get back to the games here, and let's get back to a men's section. It's Kramnik's turn. His move, last move by Dingley Ren was bishop e6, defending the pawn on d5. we're expecting either bishop a3 or maybe queen b3 or rook b1 or a queen d4 by white. Position looks pretty equal out of the opening, and I think that Ding Liren doesn't have any special problems out of that position. Okay, we'll get back to the game afterwards. So let's check other games as well. So let's go. We had a chance to see Kramnik against Ding Liren. Now Vasiliagrav against Rauf Mamedov. Vasiliagrav playing the top board for Padova from Italy, playing the first board. By the way, don't forget he's currently third player in the world after Carlsen and Caruana, according to his rating, 28-13. So he's facing Rauf Mamedov, who held with the black pieces in this tournament, Kramnik already. Once again, he's playing black pieces. Some tough pairings for Mamedov, but he's holding these guys. Okay, so d3, d6, they play the English variation, and e4, English opening, and e4 by Wasia. After knight g7, knight g2, a6. The idea behind a6 is probably to play some rook b8 and b5, breaking on the queen side. And this is typical modern chess, so h4 taking advantage of not having still short castle and having this rook on the h file, so it just supports the idea of h4 and h5. Mamedov played h6, so any h5 to be able to meet with g5. Knight e5, this is pretty normal position for English opening. Okay, what is considered to be slightly better in such positions. So we'll see most likely either short castle or maybe a rook b8 followed by b5. But we'll see what is Mamedov going to do here. We'll go back to this game because these are just openings, and I'm not going to pay like so much attention on every single game and to provide any analysis or moves, because there are like lots of possibilities for both players, for both sides at every single moment, and just because of that, we just have to check like most of these games. Grishchuk Elyanov. Grishchuk playing white, bishop b5. I was explaining yesterday in a broadcast why everybody started playing in this position, bishop c4 lately, because black simply plays Berlin defense. That was introduced by Kramnik in that famous World Championship match against Garry Kasparov, thanks to which actually he became world champion. Ever since then, Berlin opening became such a solid and strong weapon for black players against the Ruy Lopez. That's why lately lots of players from top, they play bishop c4 third move. Okay, here Grishchuk went for Ruy Lopez, played the d3, which is anyways one of the most common reactions lately. And after d3, bishop c5, c3, castles, d5. In about like 15 minutes, we'll have some guests here. Yesterday we had like really some really top world names like David Navarra, 27, almost 2750 player, Peter Leko, one of contenders for the World Championship title. You remember that match against Kramnik. So they provided their analysis for you, and you could have seen how deep you have to go in your analysis in games if you want to play on a top level nowadays. So these guys were very grateful for providing those analysis to them, and today we'll have like many more interesting special guests, GMs, top world players, and some interesting guests. So you're hopefully you're going to have fun. After e takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop c4. This is a position between Grishchuk and Elyanov. Normal position so far. Probably some either h3 followed by rook e1, or maybe knight bd2, or maybe even going with some b4 and b5 ideas at some point. But okay, we'll see what will Grishchuk play in that position. Hare Krishna against Mamedyarov. Mamedyarov so far has absolutely astonishing performance. His staggering performance in this tournament is mainly he won like 3 games in the first 3 rounds, then he lost against Fiddler, then once again he had a great game yesterday. So Mamedyarov is playing really on a high level in this tournament. So he's facing Hare Krishna playing white. They played Sicilian, and this is the most common response by black players on a top level if you want to push for a win. So if you want to hold your opponent and play solid chess, then you go for e5 and Berlin defense against the Ruy Lopez. If you're willing to fight, Mamedyarov is known as a fighter and he always plays for a win. He actually went for neither defense. Lately, all top players go for neither, and what is like more surprising, they don't have any problems against with playing black, and even against top and the leading world players playing white against neither. So after bishop e2, e5, knight b3, bishop e7, bishop g5. This line is known as one of extremely solid variations for white. The idea is to take on f6, put the queen on d3, and then either make long or short castle. After bishop e6, bishop takes f6, queen to d3, castles. Now one of the options here is a long castle followed by knight e5. For example, long castle, bishop e7 to defend the pawn d6, and then knight e5, bishop d5, queen d5. There are some good games by white in that variation. Young Polish guy, young Krzysztof Duda, made some really nice wins, as well as youngest Serbian GM in history and most talented guy Milan Zajic. So these are some really nice games, and that's a nice plan. But okay, Hare Krishna went for short castle here. After knight e6, knight e4, e takes knight e5, we have an opposite color bishops. Middle game. I don't think that any of these sides should have any special problems. This variation is considered to be better for white with a long castle, because with a long castle, white should make following maneuver: queen f3, then bishop d3, then g4, and he should start pushing these pawns on the king's side, doing a pawn storm. It's a well-known plan for white, but once again, I'm insisting it happens if there was a long castle for white. Since he didn't make a long castle, I'm not sure how is he going to do a pawn storm, since the king stands on g1. So in my opinion, this looks more or less like a very equal type of a middle game. Okay, we'll see what's gonna happen there, but I'm not impressed with white's position out of the opening. I already equalized. By the way, this is also one of the derby matches in this round. Hare Krishna, team leader, for Czech Republic. Yesterday you had a chance to see the interview and the analysis by David Namara, their second board, and of course Shakrir Mamedyarov matches fee. So we go back to a rapport. Players are Both of these players are really playing good in this tournament. Wojtaszek made a great win against Erdős yesterday. Rapport was badly trying to win his game out of a very equal position, and he eventually managed to win the game. Also, he made one of the most stunning games in the 2016 playing black against Aronian. So both of these guys are playing in a great shape, and this is a real game to follow and a real game to watch. So they Rapport playing white, Wojtaszek playing black. Okay, Wojtaszek went for the Nimzo, E3 Rubinstein variation of Nimzo castles, and now white has knight f3, bishop d3 idea, which is a classical Rubinstein, but white went for knight g on e2. Lately, this became popular. The main idea of the system is, of course, to kick away the bishop on b4 with a3 and provoke black to take on c3, in which case white just has a healthy pawn structure and the bishop pair advantage. So that's why after d5 a3, none of black players never take on c3, but they just go back and put that bishop back either on d6 or e7. This bishop d6 move idea is because one of the white's main idea in this position is to take on d5 and then play with g3 bishop g2 for some e4. But when the bishop comes on d6, that e4 is going to be way harder. Also, bishop on d6 is going to have some attacking ideas along the diagonal b8 h2, and that's why most of players, including Kramnik himself and some other top guys, they actually go for c5, kicking this bishop away with a tempi, and then they just play knight f4. Okay, after c6, typical idea, they want to play b6, but before that, and they also want to play knight bd7 and d5. So after b4, getting like a very solid pawn structure, knight bd7, bishop d3, e5, knight e2, rook e8, f3, b6 castles, a5, and bishop d2. Normal position for the standards of this position, I mean of this opening. Black, it's Wojtaszek's turn here. Just like I said, it's more or less very, very normal game. What is he gonna do? Probably put his bishop back on f8 in order to increase pressure along the file. Pair of rooks and try to reduce material tension on board and maybe try to equalize game this way. That was the game between Richard Rapport and Wojtaszek. We're moving Svidler, another player who's in this competition, having a staggering performance. Svidler won 2 days in a row with black pieces against average 2760 opponents. Just to remind you, he beat Mamajarov 2 rounds before. Yesterday, he also won his game against Dingley Ran, so he's really doing great in this tournament. Svidler playing white. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. He went for the Rilop as one of the main lines. After a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5. Okay, here we go. White can go, if he likes the martial attack, he should go for a short castle immediately. Yevgeny Posny played the d6, and this is one of possibilities. Of course, white could play here c3, making shelter for his light square bishop to be able to put it back on c2 and support a4 pawn and play d4, or just a3 securing the light square bishop and making shelter in case of any knight a5, so he could put a bishop back there. And finally a4. Probably from all these moves, a4 is the most interesting one. This variation gained a lot of popularity lately. I remember seeing some good games by white playing d4 and going for an endgame here. For example, after d4 castles, d takes e5. I remember the game played in Serbian league where black took here on e5, and after d takes e5, queen d8, white easily got better position. After d takes e5, knight bd2, he's avoiding to trade queens off. Bishop c5, a5, h6, h3, a bunch of normal moves in this position, and here white went for the bishop d5. Black cannot obviously take this bishop on d5 because in that case the e5 pawn would hang. So after bishop d5, this is pretty strong move. He's maintaining one of his minor pieces, active pieces in the center, threatening to take on c6 definitely at a moment. So if, I guess, bishop d7 or bishop b7, and afterwards Swidler will probably play some queen e2, queen c4, maybe some knight c4, just increasing pressure against the e5 pawn. Swidler, considering his shape here, also considering the rating difference, is surely a favorite in this match. And we'll see what is going to happen, but we certainly look back on this game, and actually we're going to have to get back to this game so many times in this broadcast, but this is one of those interesting games in this round. Okay, let's move on. Gelfand against Guseynov. They played obviously solid Slav defense. Gelfand playing white, knight f3, knight f6, and he opted for e3 line. If you remember, World Championship match between Kramnik and Topalov, match with lots of controversy. They played both Kramnik and Topalov this variation with white pieces. On the other hand, they both played this position with black, which just shows that this variation is considered to be one of the most solid ones with white pieces, but also the most solid ones for black. So after a3, bishop f5, black has at his disposal like 5 different moves. a6, Chebanenko, bishop g4, g6, type of Grunfeld defense, semi-Maran with e6, and finally bishop to f5. This is considered to be the main one and one of the most solid moves for black. After knight c3, e6, knight h4, typical way. Once again, black has 3 moves: bishop g4, bishop e4 provoking f3, and bishop g6. Guseynov played bishop g6. This is an interesting moment to stop, because Gelfand also played this variation 2 times against Magnus Carlsen. He was black in those games, and both times Carlsen took on g6 and played bishop d3. And both games, after lots of complications, Carlsen managed to win. So this is interesting. Gelfand didn't play the way Carlsen did against him. He played the bishop e2. For example, I play myself with like a lot of success and good results. Knight takes g6 and g3. After knight bishop e2, knight bd7, castles, bishop d6, Gelfand plays g3. Everything is more or less pretty much expected. Since the rook was on h8, he doesn't want to take, and just because he made castle, he's waiting for black to make castle, and once he did it, he goes for knight takes g6 and queen b3. These type of games are always considered to be slightly better for white, always, mainly because of the bishop pair. But this is, once again, like many times before in this tournament, fight between statics and dynamics. White will try to open up the game, although White is usually not trying to do that playing e4 in such positions, because in that case he might have some e4, d takes e4, and some d4 structural weaknesses. But White is just trying to expand on the queen side. Karpov likes to play positions like this. He likes to move his rook to d1, rook from f to d1, then placing the bishop on d2 and e1. Another rook from a1 comes to c1, and White has extremely compact and solid position, and it's very, very tough to do anything aggressive playing black against such a solid variation by White. So black is usually just waiting for the White's reaction, and White is that's why I say that White is considered to be always slightly better in such positions. So after rook b8, rook to d1, queen e7. Queen e7, idea is to take on c4 and to push e5. Why? Because he couldn't push e5 immediately because of c takes d5. Maybe even if we can't win the pawn on d5, at least we're going to create an isolated pawn, and this is why White stands better in all those positions. After queen c2, here we have this position. Idea behind queen c2 is to make some pressure against the g6 pawn. If you're wondering how, black wants to play d takes e4 and e5, it wouldn't be possible here because queen g6 would take, and d takes e4 and e5 at the moment black's main idea is temporarily stopped. So black probably should move his f8 rook somewhere, either to e8 or d8, or maybe play bishop before taking on c3, or I was about to say to play some a6. All together with this queen on c2 preventing d takes c4 and d5 idea, I believe that queen on c2 also supports some e4 ideas in some moment. So that could be another thing. I said that for usual is not will move on. Navarra against Morozevich. Yesterday we had an interview with Navarra. He's such a nice guy. Okay, he spoke about, he's very modest. He's 2740 rated. He said that he's currently very satisfied with the way, okay, maybe he wasn't playing the best shape in the chess Olympiad, in the last Olympiad in Azerbaijan, but he just said that he wants to, he's satisfied with, generally speaking, his chess, and he wants to improve to 2750. Okay, Navarra playing white, playing Morozevich, one of the most resourceful and surely interesting chess players in the world. I'm talking about Morozevich. Morozevich went for the Ruy Lopez classic variation. We have one of the main lines, a rook e8 and bishop b7. Okay, this is more or less a normal type of game. A3, y3, because he would like to put the bishop back on c2 to stop the knight before, and afterwards, you know, also sometimes this pawn on a3 makes the shelter on a2 for the light square bishop to go back there. So Navarra, Morozevich, h6, d5. As soon as the light square bishop left the center and control of the center, black breaks in the center and plays d5. This is good, and I believe that Morozevich looks like he knows what he's doing in this position, and his opening looks very, very good, speaking from black's point of view. On the other hand, Navarra also has like a very solid position. I'd say that, okay, this is position with mutual chances, probably Okay, he c takes d5, queen takes d5, and knight to h4. Well, to be honest, right now, he's defending the g2. He's attacking f5 at some point, giving himself possibility for that queen to come on h5 maybe sometimes. He's also threatening some f3. I see like, okay, probably he wants to play f3, kicking away this knight. Because if the knight comes to g5, he would take on g5 and take on f5. So at the moment, he's threatening to win in one move. With f3. When I said that Morozovich looks that good. So at the moment, white happens to play f3. And if he plays f3, knight g5, I don't see anything else. Bishop takes g5 and to take on f5, and white would be winning in that game. I believe bishop would take on e5, and after rook e5, queen e5. Wait a sec. So it's like that. It's not like that actually. Can he play queen f7, f3, and for example here rook a8 to d8. Okay. Yeah, queen f7. That's what he played. That's what he played after 10 minutes of thinking. Controlling g6 and f5 pawns. But wait a sec. Okay, now we have to check what if f3. Certainly he would include one more tempi here with rook a d8 and probably queen to e2. And now let's take a look closely at this position. I don't see if this knight can move anywhere else but on g5, and it just loses because he would take and take on f5, or he's just winning a pawn. But maybe he's got some bishop e7, because this knight also has no places and where to go. So after f takes e4, bishop h4, I guess black is okay there. Especially because if you play g3, then I play f takes e4, and you can't touch my bishop because the bishop on f4 is hanging. Or if just knight f5, this could be interesting to see if then queen f4. Then queen f4, and this looks like an equal position after, or just slightly better for white, but okay. These are some of possible variations here. At the moment, Morozov played his last move, queen f7, defending three things at the same time. Possibly weak square g6, possibly weak pawn on f5, and controlling the h5 so white queen cannot go there. Okay, so we'll get back to that game. Andreikin Giri. Andreikin made a great game yesterday playing against Dominguez. He was black. He, from an early start of the game, pushed for a win against Dominguez. He really made a great game. And now he's white against Anish Giri. He also won yesterday against Vallejo. So this is going to be a pretty interesting game because both of these players are doing quite good. So after queen c2, Kasparov used to play this line against Nimzo. After d5, c takes, bishop g5. Andreikin didn't want to go into complications after bishop h4. This line is known as very interesting and full of sacrifices in case of bishop h4, but Andreikin opted for Karpov's favorite move. I'm even willing to say a little bit boring move. Bishop takes f6, but you know, it's one of those positions where white is just trying to exploit some minority attack on the queen side, because after castles, knight f3, bishop f5, e3, if he ever played c6, that would be a well-known topic of minority pawn for white, so white would be slightly better in that position. Anyways, after like a3, rook c8, like you see, Anish Giri, he's not wasting his time. He doesn't want to play c5. He immediately went with a rook on c8. He wants to support the c5, d takes, queen takes c3, b takes c3, and play certainly better endgame. because in that case Andreikin's pieces wouldn't be actually, pieces would be good, but his pawns would be kind of broken. So I'm waiting after bishop d3, bishop d3. This is pretty equal game, and speaking from black's point of view, Gary and especially typical for Russian top players. Rajabov Aronian. Rajabov won yesterday against Hyman. Hyman from Germany was the best first board up to yesterday's game, and then Rajabov was having white pieces, and if you remember, he won that game. Today he's playing against Aronian. He's playing actually they play Catalan open variation. Aronian took on c6, took on c4, and after 95, 96, they went for this line. It's very interesting. D takes, queen takes, knight c3. If queen c4, it would be immediately draw. For example, on a top level, queen c4, bishop e6, queen c2, bishop f5, and they just keep repeating moves. So clearly, Rajabov probably considers the fact that he won yesterday's game, so he's got some confidence. Also, Aronian so far is not having a good tournament here. He lost against Rapport. Yesterday he drew with white pieces against Parligras from Romania. So Rajabov didn't want to take on c4. He played knight c3, knight e4. Knight e4, queen b5. Interesting. After queen b5, c5, he's happy to play an endgame. He's happy to play an endgame because black has many structural weaknesses. So c5, queen c4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop e6, queen d3, queen e3, and okay, here we go. I don't think that Aronian has any special problems out of the opening here, so it's a not pretty level game. So we'll go back to this game, but once again they play the open Catalan and 95 line. Yesterday we had a chance to see somebody played queen c2, a6, and a4. Didn't want to play like queen takes c4 and b5 main line. So Rajabov went for 95. It's certainly one of the most common moves here for white, but it's not considered to be the best. Queen c2 is just like more solid. 95, knight c6. Queen a4, e5 takes, knight c3, and we have an obstacle at bishop position. So we'll see, but I would be quite happy playing with black this position. Okay, Ivanchuk Predovic. Predovic, ex-world youth champion. Very tough to crack. Ivanchuk playing white, so this is gonna be interesting game. All fans from Bosnia and Serbia, we are cheering up for Borky. You had a chance to watch him doing this live commentary last year of the European Club Cup held in Macedonia. d4, knight f3, d5, queen's Indian, and suddenly if bishop b4 it's Bogo, if c5 it's Benoni. He went for d5. And so many, what I'm trying to say, so many things can happen within few moves, and you have like tons of varieties in the openings on this top level, and that's why these top guys have to be like so well prepared. After bishop g5, h6, bishop takes f6. Not the most common line. here, but after c6 they actually transposed into another variation. This is now Moscow variation in Slav defense, or Meran or Semi-Slav, call it whatever. So after queen b3, Ivanchuk likes to make these queen b3 moves in queen's gambit positions. D takes, queen takes. He's taking by queen. He's holding the center, and afterwards he's willing to play e4. That's exactly what happened here. 97. One of the main ideas for black in this position is to put his bishop on g7, play short castle, and somehow break with either c5 or e5 in the center afterwards. So after a3, bishop g7, this one e5. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this position? Black has a bishop pair, although his bishop on g7 is not doing too many things at the moment, just like the bishop on c8. Although, if he manages to open his game up, his position will be great. I remember analyzing one game played by Wishy Anand in this position. Black had a great game, and he really had some great games with black pieces in this position. I believe it was against Predrag Nikolic. Okay, queen went to c3. Interesting. He's opening up diagonal for his bishop. He's supporting the pawn chain d4 and d5. And maybe this queen at some point can go to e3 and f4, moving it on the king's side. Probably Predovic could go for knight f8, bishop. It's a little bit difficult because his position is, black's position is kind of closed, and it's not, he got stuck a little bit, and it's not easy to redevelop his pieces here. Let's just say, like, put them, reinforce them, and put them on like best squares. So maybe knight b6, knight d5. But as far as I see, Ivanchuk knows what he's doing in this position. Okay, let's move on. I'm just checking all the games in the beginning, so afterwards we'll go back. With Yugov Huzman. With Yugov went for bishop b5. This is Razalema line, lately very popular. Mainly white just takes on c6, breaking the pawn structure and playing very positionally against the bishop pair. But he didn't want to take here. He went for the castles, bishop g7, and played the knight c3 move. Recently, I've seen couple games played like this with white pieces. It's very uncommon on highest level to have this opening. I've seen Vasyl Agra, for example, played in a couple of his games. He went for c3, here c3, knight f6, and d4, that gambit, or just some rook, knight c3, knight f6, bishop takes e6, e5 options by white. Although after knight c3, d6, e5, very unusual opening. To be honest, I see this line not for the first time, but I actually know about this idea. I mean, sacking the pawn for breaking the black's pawn structure completely, and afterwards going for these pawns. After rook e1, he wants to get a pawn back with preferable pawn structure. d3, fixing the pawns on e5 and c5, and the very practical decision by black. He is giving up on pawn, creating double pawns in white's position, and just getting like a very good game. So after h3, c takes. Now, white also has some problems in this game. I'm mainly talking about the isolated pawn on d3, but black also has his isolated pawns on a7 and c6. And considering those things, we just have to say that black is doing fine because he's got a bishop pair. But there is something else. Actually, after c takes d3, white is going to play bishop e3. And he's most likely going to take advantage of the c file with rook c1 and queen a4. And I believe something like that happened here. So knight f6, knight e5, rook c8, bishop f4, and queen a3, followed by rook ac1. White has a pressure against the c6, a7, and e7 pawns like potential weaknesses. Okay, this is certainly a very interesting game, and it's gonna be a tough middle game for both of these guys. Yakovenko plays against Tomaszewski. They played Queen's Indian, so d4, knight f6, c4, a6, knight f3, b6, a3. One of very annoying continuations. Usually all these top players, they just go for g3 and that type of Queen's Indian, but this a3 stops bishop b4 by black and gives like better control of the center. Idea by white will be to play knight c3, queen c2 with e4. So after bishop b7, knight c3, d5, c takes, knight takes, queen c2. He wants to play e4. And here we have knight c3, b takes, c5, e4, getting like a strong center, knight e7, bishop f4. Okay, now we have a game with, I was willing to say almost hanging pawns because they're not. The pawn on e4 could always be defended by the f pawn. So these are not hanging pawns. But one of main ideas by white in such positions could be a pawn sec with d5, and after e takes d5, pushing the pawn up to e5 and organizing the attack there on the king side. Although I'm not sure if Yakovenko could do that in this position. Roughly equal chances for both of these players. Van Gaal playing against Markus. Van Gaal played e4, and for a top level, Markus continued with Alekhine defense. We cannot commonly see this reaction against e4 and top level. Markus, one of the best Serbian players, he went for Alekhine defense. Carlsen used to play Alekhine defense from time to time, and exactly this line with d takes e5 and c6. The idea of this line is to play in case of c4 knight b4 and then bishop f5, and to do some very interesting active stuff with black pieces. But okay, white usually play bishop e2, and white's main idea is as soon as black plays knight d7, not to trade off pieces, because black has problems with pretty stuck pieces in his position, and with pretty he's having a lot of problems to keep developing his pieces here. And as soon as black plays knight d7, white will bring his knight back to f3. That's exactly what happened here. So this way he's threatening to play some knight h4, winning the bishop pair just like in Slav positions, and also to break in the center with c4 and d5. Let's have a look and see what happened there. Queen c7, knight h4, g3, a4, a5, knight takes g6, and bishop a3. As far as I'm concerned, this is slightly better position for white because of the bishop pair and because of development. Not because development advantage, but definitely because of more space. So bishop pair and more space definitely gives white more pleasant chances in this game. It's interesting. Markus is known as a Sicilian player, so this is interesting choice. Knight against Peter Leko. Yesterday, you were witnesses of a very nice, actually very nice interview that Leko gave to us, and also he provided some really stunning analysis showing how much you have to see during one game on a top level. He won with a white pieces, and he's doing good in this tournament. Leko played e5, and this is the 4 knights opening with the bishop b5, and he went for the best move, knight d4. Knight d4, he takes knight d5. This variation, apart from this knight d5, white can also play e5, but that line is considered to be almost drawn. So after knight e5, he takes d5, queen e7, queen e2, a6. We don't have anything that's special here. They're going to trade the queens off. I believe that the only problem for white could be this d4 pawn. Has a chance to play some queen and go and conquer the pawn on d4. That would be for him, but I have no doubts that as soon as he does some short castle or just long castle, Lacko is going to take on e2 and play f5 followed by king f7. I believe that he equalized very easily with black pieces. That's his style with black pieces, and he's extremely solid. It's very tough to crack, and I guess we see so many top players doing the same things over and over. So they're satisfied with draw with black pieces, and they're pushing with white. We'll check few more games, and Krivoruchko against Wroblewski. They play Taimanov defense with a6. Normal variation. This is just a logical development for both of these sides. White is going to play bishop e2, knight a4, and break the center with c4, trying to block these hanging pawns. On the other hand, black will try to do some bishop d6, maybe provoke white to play f4 and somehow break there in the center. Also, he's got sometimes ideas like c5 and c4, but it's very I believe this is practically very nice position for playing with white pieces. Telling from my own experience, bishop e7, king h1. So once he pushes this pawn on f4, king on g1 is not going to be under any check. So after rook f to e8, f4, g6, e5. I really like white's position. This is exactly the way you're supposed to play, breaking in the games like this. So he played f5, he takes, bishop takes f5. Of course, that pawn cannot take because of mating threats like rook f5, queen h5, and it's very simple way to attack there. But bishop f8, I believe that's one of the ideas by Wroblewski when he played rook f to e8. So he certainly expected f4 and f5 idea by white, especially after king h1. He certainly expected f5, even though he played g6 move. He's gonna make some bishop g7 as a defensive idea, going after the e5 pawn if needed. Here white has bishop d7 or e6, but this could be, a game by white being played like this could all the time, backfire. Like if black manages to play bishop g7 and white has absolutely no attack here, this pawn on e5 could turn out to be a big weakness. So maybe after bishop f8, bishop g7, I'm willing to say that white could be in big problems there. Okay, white has two good moves here, e6 or bishop d7, and if that happens, for example, bishop d7 and knight a4, for example, he's supporting the e5 pawn, and also he wants to do bishop d4, controlling the dark squares. I believe this is a positional approach here. He's gonna keep playing position with a pawn on e5 and keep doing the blockade along the dark squares. That's a good idea, and white for sure has at least slightly better chances there. This is positional approach, and I don't know, maybe we can analyze this and have some interesting calculation to play like this. He takes, king takes, queen h5, for example, the rook on e8 is hanging and play like this. So on e6 they can never touch this bishop on g5. If they take, then it's checkmate. Then it's checkmate like this, knight e5. So black would have to play something like knight c5. And this is one of the options here. So maybe queen g4, queen g4, but he will have to be very careful, because it could turn out that after bishop g7, this light square bishop could easily fall, just like the pawn on e6. So this is interesting. If I was white, I would definitely take on d7 and played knight a4, followed by bishop d4 and control of the dark squares. White looks better in this position. White looks better in this position. Okay. This is Krivoruchko against Wroblewski. We'll go now to more of the games. Bakro against Safarli. Like you see in this broadcast, I'm just trying to sorry, I'm experiencing some problems with the board. I'm just trying to cover all the games. I'm not only trying to analyze and to show you like a couple of first boards and to make it this way, because there are so many players in this tournament, more than 450, and I'm just trying to cover most of their games. So many GMs, more than 150 GMs, and it's a very, very, very big chess festival for all chess players. And just like I told you yesterday, what we have in football, like Champions League, and what the Champions League is for football players, that's the European Club Cup for chess players. I'm just wondering who's Ronaldo and Messi here. Okay, so e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c5, d3. Once again, the Italian opening. Once again, a typical Rile Lopez type of game in a different move order, with the bishop c4 first move after knight bd2. They're just playing normal position, and this is going to be a long-term, this is going to be a long game. White is doing probably slightly better. Korobov, Yu Yang Yui. Korobov made a win against, actually, he defeated Kirill Gergiev yesterday in a very interesting game. I haven't spoken to Gergiev after the game, but I'm willing to ask him, could he take on b1? I believe we analyzed that yesterday, and I believe that black was winning in that position. But still, this is the English. This is English opening. Black is doing normal in such positions, and this is probably critical moment, and probably probably one of the critical moments in this game, because he's threatening to take on c6. Threatening to take on c6. So I'm not talking about that. I'm actually talking about, will black defend the knight on c6, and will it capture by, for example, playing bishop d7? So bishop c6 in that case wouldn't be possible. Or is he going to play bishop e6, what he did, and to allow bishop takes c6, and to allow like positional fighting here, playing with the bishop pair, but playing with a terrible pawn structure. Once again, statics against dynamics. I remember played between one of the best and leading Serbian players in World Cup, Robert Markoš, playing against Gurevic. Gurevic, very similar position. Gurevic was white, and he won in a game like this with white pieces. So it would be very interesting to see what black prepared here, and how is he going to, I have to say, defend this bad pawn structure. At first glance, he first has to take care of his pawns and his potential weaknesses, and then to go maybe with some attack on the king side, or just trying to use the bishop here. But okay, this is definitely preferable, slightly preferable. The side I'd take white pieces. Okay, so this was Korobov against Yu Yang Yui. Let's move on. Van Velde against Howell, one of the best Netherlands players, one of the best Dutch players, against one of the best British players. Van Velde played English. So this is like an opening survey. We're just checking like all these games, all these openings. I'm just trying to provide some interesting, like more like educational commentary for you regarding the openings, because not only good players are watching this, and also lots of viewers and spectators are really interested in ideas and why do some of the top world players just using these openings, and what are they trying to do out of the openings. So after this is typical English defense. It looks like dragon reversed with the tempi up for white. Calm, one of those calm variations in the dragon reversed. So after knight e4, knight castle, and he's probably waiting for bishop to come to g4. Okay, not here because e5 pawn is hanging, and he's provoking white to take on d4. If white takes, afterwards black's idea with rook e8, bishop f8, and bishop g4 would be to raise pressure against the e2 pawn and along the e file. So after bishop to b3, queen c1, knight takes f3, we have a normal position. For standards of this opening, I don't see any special troubles for either of these sides, and it's just like I used to say, roughly equal. We'll check like 2 more games, and then we're gonna go back to the games of best players in this tournament. Syugirov in Kiev. Syugirov played Nimzo, bishop b4, and once again queen c2. Looks like queen c2, Kasparov's favorite move, once again coming back to a fashion. So after queen c2 castles, a3, queen takes a3, d5, knight f3, d takes. This variation is extremely solid for black. Black wants to play b6, bishop a6, and that's why we have problems to play e3, because black would trade off so many pieces after b6, and he would get an equal game. But this is good position for black if black is okay with the draw. I remember Carlsen used it a couple of times against Kramnik, and this is good for black. I mean, once again, if black wants to equalize easily, this is exactly the line you should be going for. Okay, after e4, bishop f1, rook takes c5. The only problem in the black's position, those are the double pawns on f7 and f6, just like the isolated pawn on h7, but these weaknesses could turn out to be bad only in deep end games. So Inner Kiev has his own black is close to equal position, and here we have a very interesting game. I'll have to say that this is very interesting game, because this is best Serbian player, by far the best Serbian player in the last 10 years, Ivan Ivanišević, playing white, playing against by far one of the most interesting and creative, resourceful, and attacking and aggressive guys in the world, sure of playing black. But what makes this game very special and interesting is that Ivanišević is also considered to be a player like this. Extremely creative, likes lots of tactics. So we'll see. And he went for some weird bishop g5. We all know that the bishop, in case of c takes, knight c3, knight f3 is a boring equal variation. Bishop f4 was popular last few years for white without knight f3. So bishop f4, a3, and some knight c3, rook c1. Aronian made so many nice wins there with the white pieces. Actually, he's delaying development of the knight on g1, trying to face any bishop f5 or bishop g4 with f3 and g4. But Ivanišević played bishop g5. This is what I like about these guys. Two very, very interesting players clashing each other. So this is going to be a very interesting game. Now his dark square bishop is out of the queen side, and Shirov is trying to use that. Ivanišević is sacrificing a pawn. Shirov is not taking because of rook c1, of course. And after e6, queen d2, knight e7, Ivanišević goes for the... He wanted to open the center, and his idea on a long run will be to play some e4. Okay. Shirov is fighting over the c4. Ivanišević eventually played e4, and this is the moment. This is the moment where we stopped. You will rarely see that somebody keeps sacrificing pawn against Shirov. Actually, he's the one who does that all the time. So I'll pretty much keep focus on this game because probably this could be one of the most interesting games of this round. So Ivanišević Shirov will keep following this game with a great interest because of Serbian fans and because of Shirov fans. And he has like so many fans. For example, I was just talking to one journalist who came here from another city just to meet him and to say, I just want to say hi to one of my chess idols, Alexei Shirov. Okay, so White is doing better. He wants to play Rook B1. I like the position. Bishop pair. It's not easy for Shirov when he's playing against somebody and somebody wants to sacrifice pieces against him. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Also, it was very interesting. Opening started in a very boring way, and one might say, okay, White will be pretty much interested in equalizing this game very easily and playing a boring game. But then he went for Bishop G5, so this is gonna be a very strong clash between these two guys. Okay, we now check like all top games and we'll just check like two top women games. So Ho Yifan, before that Pogonina against Savina. Okay, Pogonina playing White. Savina played just like what Rapper did against Aronian. She went for Chigorin defense. This Chigorin defense is going back on a big doors on just in top chess. So they're just willing to play this knight c6 Chigorin defense. Once again, the main supporters of this line in the world, those are Alexander Morozevich and Igor Miladinovic. But we now see Richard Ruppert occasionally plays that with the black pieces, and now it's gaining popularity amongst other players. So after a3, knight f6, h3, we have a bishop pair advantage for White. I like White's position, but okay, now she lost that bishop pair, but actually a weird position of the knight on c6 brings White slightly better chances. It's a normal reaction. She wants to solidify his game with c6 and maybe to go afterwards with some ideally black tries to put this knight on d6, controlling f5, e4, c4 and b5. If you remember, Kasparov once analyzed those positions, and he said in such type of games with a so-called Carlsbad pawn structure, knight for black belongs on d6, controlling the center and all these key squares. Bodnaruk playing against Ho Yifan. Ho Yifan doing great so far, beating up her opponents pretty easily. She's playing black. She of course went for she played the Scheveningen defense. By the way, don't forget Ho Yifan playing for the Cercle d'Echecs Monte Carlo team. That's the only team in the women's section to have perfect score, and if they win this match, they're already European club champions. So after e6, bishop e3, a6, this is now some sort of neither or Scheveningen. Okay, with the g3 it's a completely different approach. Bishop e7, f4, f5, e5, and reminds me of some neither type of games. h6 in order to stop bishop g5, because White's plan could always be to get rid of one of the knights and then to have a typical fight where two knights are going to compete with two restricted and pretty bad bishops for black. But Ho Yifan didn't allow that. She played h6. She stopped the bishop g5 for White, and we'll see what will happen in the rest of this game. We'll now go back to the games. Just before that, let me just show you what is happening on top boards. We'll just check 4 more games. Vasia against Mamedov, Kramnik against Dingley Ran, Grishchuk against Elyanov, and then we'll make one short break. After that, we'll have a couple of guests here. Don't forget, so many players are lately coming here, top players. So stay tuned. Actually, let's first check these games. Vasia against Mamedov. Things have changed since we had a last look at this position. 95 b5, breaking on the queen side. By the way, this was the moment where we stopped, so I'll make these moves just briefly. So rook b8, bishop d2, king h7, wants to break with f5 at some point. Okay, Vasia just played f4, so b3, rook b8, bishop d2, king h7, rook c1, bishop g4, bishop e3, knight e4, and this is current position. Vasia playing white pieces. Today I was checking some results between Vasia and some of the top leading world players. He's having really strong scores and strong results against leading world players. Always on the top of his tactical skills, opening preparations. He's certainly number 3 in the world now. And he lost one game in this tournament. He lost against Mamedyarov. It was in that Grunfeld game, but still, Mamedyarov is one of the top and leading world players, so it's not surprising to lose some of your games like that. Okay, so bishop f4. What's the point here? Probably black would keep tension on the queen side with b5. I'm not sure when is he intending to take on c4, but whether he does that now or later, position is just normal. I'd say this is normal position, but actually it's more or less unclear position. And Mamedov is really playing good here. He held Kramnik two rounds ago, and now he's playing once again black, this time against Vasia. So we had a chance to see Vasia against him, Kramnik against Dingley Ran. We stopped here. So just for all of you who started to follow the games and this broadcast later, I'm gonna show it to you. This was Grunfeld opening. Started like ready, but very soon transposed into Grunfeld with surprising knight e5 move, knight bd7, and Kramnik decided to play position like this. He now sacrificed the pawn. Of course, it was just a... I guess these are all part of their preps. Kramnik likes this kind of positions, pretty simple, without much sparkles on board, and where he can just dominate the in type of like queenless middle game or type of like middle game without so many pieces on board, and where he can just slowly handle the advantage. Okay, here he's going to most likely put the rook back here, because in case of, well, bishop e5 doesn't work. Bishop e5 doesn't work because, but okay, let's say okay, if bishop e5, then queen e6, what is much better, followed by rook d7. If queen e5, then he's got queen b7, what is much better, pawn up. Maybe some queen c6 looks annoying, threatens mate in 1. King g, okay, threatens queen h1. King g1. And maybe now bishop e5. Maybe now bishop e5, and but just like I told you, positions like this are exactly type of positions Kramnik enjoys so much, and he really likes to conduct this kind of advantages, and of course to eventually convert them, just to transpose into preferable type of an endgames, and then to go and to dry out his opponents in deep endgames. Probably some queen b4, maybe queen e7, threatening also bishop a7, queen f8, checkmate, threatening queen e7, rook d7, maybe some queen a5 if the rook moves away there. So this is slightly better for Kramnik. We'll get moving, but this is interesting to see how is Kramnik going to carry on in that position. Grishchuk against Elyanov. They played Berlin defense d3, c3 to stop the knight d4 game between Andreikin and Perunovic. Actually, the opposite, Perunovic and Andreikin. Castle knight d4, black equalizes very easily. So c3, castles d5, he takes, bishop c4, and looks like Grishchuk, I like his position. I like his opening choice, and this seems to be slightly better as far as I see. So maybe even some effort you're not allowed to take, because I can take on d6 and take on f6 and play some knight e4 there. But maybe I can do this one, because if knight d6, queen d6, I don't have time to take on f4. But maybe this, now knight e4, and when the queen moves, now I have bishop f4, rook f4. Looks better, but not much after bishop e6. Or if you move your queen, just to give you this line, but of course this is not going to happen, because this would be way better for white because of the bishop pair. So Grishchuk is doing fine in this position, and as far as I see, this is slightly better game for white. Okay, effort was just one of the ideas. Maybe he wants to play something completely different, like rook b1 and maybe b4. Maybe he wants to play some queen f3, moving that queen along the third rank and going eventually to g3, and trying to exploit the weakness on the h6 and potentially with king side. These could be ideas. This could be ideas by white here. I like white's position. I just have to restrict myself and to say that's my opinion, so it doesn't have to be that. Okay, this is pretty equal game from its beginning. Hare Krishna went for that short castle variation. I don't like it's very, in my opinion, unambitious attempt to get something with the white pieces. Majority is playing. Maybe he's okay with a equal result. Okay, I mean, he's okay with the draw. Just like I told you, if in these positions you want to play something that should be long castle followed by 95, remember Ivanchuk beat somebody, and that Polish guy whose name I mentioned, Jan Duda. So idea is long castle 95, long castle threatening on d6, and after bishop e7 95. But okay, it didn't happen in this game. Short castle. Now they're just playing some boring, pretty drawish type of position, and this is gonna be off for sure. Maybe sometimes I'm exaggerating, saying like this is gonna be a draw for sure, but I don't think these guys will make mistake in such a simple position. Simply, I believe in them so much. Okay, this is interesting. Rapport played 95, looks very nice. Tashek, both of them are doing great in this tournament. Bishop e1, bishop g3, Rapport improved position of his bishop, and after bishop a6, knight f4, he now sacked a piece on d5. This is nice, because if pawn takes, he wants to play b5 followed by c6. Rapport is doing great. He's in really great shape. He's 27 52. He's at his peak rating, so he's improved. I mentioned that a couple of times. He's the guy who's improving fastest in the world class chess. So after 95, c takes b5. But okay, maybe after this. But okay, he likes unbalanced type of positions with the bishop pair and with a lot of wanted to even out of equal position to push and try to win. He all the time tries to win. On a top level, that's what attracts sponsors and that's what attracts people and viewers, and that's why we all like to watch and analyze his games. Okay, now we're gonna make a break. I'll definitely need a break. I'll definitely need one coffee. After this break, we'll have a couple of guests here with us. Don't forget, yesterday we had some really top world names. We're waiting for them to finish their games, so we'll see if I'll be able to get any of this. I don't have so many time because I'm all the time here in the commentary room, and it's far away and even on a different floor compared to the playing hall. But also we'll have some interesting games and some random chess players, also some special guests. So stay tuned, stay with us. I am off for like next 15 minutes. Bye bye.
The name of the event is the First Issue Educational Conference, which means that already in the world happened many conferences, but by issue is organized the first one.
People that is working with chess in school all over Europe, they are gathering here to share experiences and also to try different problems that everyone facing in the different countries.
It's a very important topic for us because we are just planning to start it and to listen about other countries, how it's working in other countries. And
chess in schools is in 7 years.
This is a very important conference, chess in schools, and it was very pleasure for me to see so very important persons study experience from other countries.
In the past, individual chess federations have organised a conference, and these have been quite interesting. What we're doing is we're bringing together people from around Europe, and we're exchanging ideas. And this is being led by the Education Commission.
To give you a few ideas that I've drawn from experiences around the world.
ჭადრაკის სკოლის სისტემა, რომელიც ვფიქრობ ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი არის არა მარტო ჭადრაკის განვითარების კუთხით, გამოცდილება, ის საერთაშორისო გამოცდილება, რომელიც უკვე დაუგროვდა წამყვან ქვეყნებს, გადმოვიტანოთ.
კონფერენცია ჩემთვის პირადი, ჩემთვის ახალი თემა, ბავშვებთან მუშაობა და ბავშვების ჭადრაკი და უბრალოდ პრიორიტეტი გახდება ჩემთვის.
I believe personally that 7% of the kids, when they're starting maths, they hate it. Or while it's opposite, 70% of kids, they like it because this is the game. Here I see the difference, with pleasure, not with pressure.
What I wish is that the school system, I hope,
I start with a question about being in Serbia before. Actually, as much as I can remember, I was one time in Serbia, exactly here, in this playing hall. I was playing 2009 European Team Championship, and this was the only time. Decision why I decided to play in this tournament, I must admit I would prefer to play in European Club Cup, but none of the teams where I'm playing wanted to have me, or they didn't qualify. And I just wanted to play some tournament, and I thought, nice place, nice country, familiar venue, parallel to the European Club Cup. Why not?
Okay, guys, welcome back. Today we have a first special guest. It's a young, talented, and one of our rising world stars, Jordan van Forest, current Dutch champion. Jordan, welcome.
Yeah.
How do you like here?
I like it a lot. I think I like it a little bit too much because I'm enjoying myself too much. So my play is going not so great. I'm having too much fun.
But you still won your game today.
Today I did, yeah. But it's the first game I won in this tournament.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in a recently finished Netherlands champion, you won. It's not so common to have such a young players and to be, especially of such a strong countries like Netherlands is.
Because bad internet.
Okay,
right?
now it's working. Okay, now we're back. I'm not exactly sure what was the last thing you heard. I'll just once again say that here with us we have a special guest, Jordan van Forest. He's one of the competitors in this tournament, playing the first board for the Dutch team. For which team?
Sissa.
Sissa. Okay, how is your team doing?
According to
Expectations. Okay, so Jordan is current Dutch champion, was European champion. He was okay. Could you? I actually know for you were considered to be one of the prodigies in that tournament, and we just consider you his main competitor. At that time, you ended up in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And could you please tell us your plans for the future?
I hope to be a professional player, of course. I mean, I enjoy the game a lot, so I think my play is going well. So I need to try to get higher, obviously. But this tournament didn't really help getting towards the goal. But okay, I have some time, and I'll try to play as many tournaments as possible. And I mean, to make chess a living would be great.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like we mentioned previously, you won your game today. We just have like many good. These are really great, and I really needed to do this interview with you because you're one of, let's just say, normal young chess players that I like very much, and this is like very good for chess to attract like more viewers and people. Okay, Jordan, so do you have any here?
No, we can look at the game which is on like of Vasily Mamedov.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, in the
I
meantime,
didn't know which is the most interesting game, but this one seems pretty interesting. Okay, there, but like play seems c6 to e5, for example. I mean, it doesn't seem such a bad position for black against for Mamedov, right?
mm-hmm.
Maybe even knight c6 b4. I don't know if this is a plan. I'm actually not so sure what is the point of e5.
Knight e6 b4 sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
If knight takes b4 8 takes, then some rook f4 queen h4 ideas.
Maybe he was also afraid if knight c6 immediately queen a4 picks up.
Knight b4.
No, I mean
we can for example move. If
no, it's like
it's white to
but
move.
I mean here knight c6, maybe queen a4 was a problem.
Uh-huh.
So he wants to get the pawn protected first. But maybe queen a4 now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem so great, right? At least bishop d7. I don't know
D7?
if this is so.
With the idea, but d6 pawn will be hanging afterwards.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a problem. But that would be fine. Maybe queen c7 here. But it feels to me like e6, like really alright.
Mamedov is doing really good in this tournament. I mean,
Yeah?
he held Kramnik with black pieces, and now
Wow.
he's playing Vashev also with black. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure how
So-
did he do when he was white, but
I mean, and it's a pretty good decision of the team to put him on board one, yeah, because they're very strong with other players. So I think Rachabov plays for their team.
Mhm.
I'm not so. He played queen f4, yeah.
so you're guessing the moves by 28-13.
Yeah.
Does it mean something?
I don't think one move is good enough. Queen b6.
Yeah, and you also said Queen b6.
Yeah, man, logical move. Yeah, black wants to get the knight to c6, so it's just about this, yeah. But knight c6 now is even if it's black to move the pawn on d6 keeps I mean, it would be nice if the white rook could get to the b file somehow. Anyway, just feels to me like the white should do even here. Yeah, rook c.
I don't know. No, it's okay. Okay.
So rook c2, rook to b2. But even if the rook gets to b2, then queen a6 is not so easy for white. So it's not really a threat.
Rook c2 with the idea of rook b2.
Yeah, but even if rook b2, queen a6.
Do you think I should play queen a6?
Here even already. Yeah, maybe.
And then I'm preventing rook b2 and also threatening
Ah,
rook
wait.
b8.
What about knight c6? No, knight c6.
Bishop d6?
And then I want to go knight b4. But I think knight takes b4 is queen d6, knight d3 back, and probably not enough compensation. But why play so difficult if you can just play some leaks? Okay, maybe only thing. Yeah, not sure what white's plan could be. e5.
But, one of a chess product. How much time do you spend on your chess daily, and what are you studying to become so good in?
I do a few hours. No, I mean, I used to do much more actually. I used to do it like 6 hours. Recently, school. I'm in my last school year, so I have to spend some time on schools these days. So I have some less time. I'm not really given number because it differs from day to day. Like if I have some important school tests, I cannot do so much chess, but otherwise I'll do a lot, of course.
But do you know what is interesting? For example, in like 6 hours, let's just say
work on openings usually. I mean, I like the books of his great predecessors in this series on himself, and I read some recent books like the Book of Gelfand recently. So, and that's basically what I do, and I just work on my openings a lot also recently because it's got a little bit more importance because it's pretty important to get a nice position out of the opening. And before it didn't matter so much for me, but now against stronger players, if you're not having such a great position out of the opening, it can have a pretty negative effect on the result of the game. So I try to improve my openings.
Yeah, so mainly you're focusing on having like a stable opening repertoire and improving your game.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Because I mean, before I never spent so much time on openings. I just played all kinds of crappy lines which I got from my trainer, but now I try to do a little bit more work.
I don't know, this
In this game,
look at this.
the internet is so slow, right?
Well, I just have to apologize. First of all, the two were experiencing these problems, and what can we do? Jordan, uh, keep choosing the games, whatever you like.
Yeah, I was just wondering why they go any chance, because like they play like this, but I analyze now a little bit when the internet was gone, and I think, oh no, white probably plays. So here white plays king to e2, and I think if white puts the king on d1, there's no play any. I mean, this looks like a draw now. Okay.
And your idea was if bishop e8?
Yeah, I want to. Oh, did I do something? No. Okay, I didn't play it so accurately. So, but my idea was b5 somehow, but now with the king coming here, no play anymore. So it's just a draw. But I thought maybe black can play, but this seems like equal now. Oh.
Okay. Now.
Okay, this game
Let's
may be
check.
better here. Let me just take a look through the game. Yeah, Kremlin plays every opening, right? But he has been playing a lot against this system lately. Okay, I guess it's all theory. I'm not sure myself. Pawn, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke about that during the broadcast. That bishop a7 is, believe it or not, a threat because of queen f8 checkmate.
That's funny, yeah. Just take, and he thought maybe he prevents it, but anyway. So, one must be better here, right? He can go. Yeah, it's not equal for black. Maybe h5. But I don't like it. Queen e7 now.
Queen e7.
You just go here, pawn up in the end game, at least. So what is his plan here? Why did he blunder this, or not blunder, or there was nothing better here? I mean, what about b6 or a6? Yeah, it's strange. Should he just give this pawn?
Just let me see something, please. We're on.